Rachel, as I often do on this show, I'm rambling on with no point. So I'm just
I
glad that
understand
you
your
stuck
point
with me.
completely. I'm
Okay,
with you.
good.
I'm right here, buddy.
Okay. I didn't know if maybe I put you to sleep. And if so, I'll just shake you. I'll wake you back up. But
Laughing at your jokes again.
yes. Well, I can't help but tell them because I know you're going to laugh. So anyway, you were at the women's Final Four, and you know what's funny? We work in the media, obviously, so we don't really get too excited about too many things. But when I saw your videos and that you were recording and posting on Facebook, I was like a little kid inside. I'm like, she's right there. You were on the court with Caitlin Clark, and it was so cool. I mean, you were right there, right up close to her while she was talking to the coach, doing her drills, and I just thought, I don't know, it was like a little kid in me came out, and it wasn't just her, it was like everybody. And it was really your coverage that you were showing these videos and really giving an inside look at that. What was that experience like for you to cover that? Because, I mean, this is the first time women's Final Four has been in Cleveland.
No, you know what? It came, I think, in 1997, maybe. And I think Tennessee won, and I didn't know that either. So somebody had told me because they were trying to get tickets, and he was like, I was there when the Final Four was here in 97. I'm just like, sorry, I didn't have a ticket hook up. You know,
I was living in Wyoming in 1997. So.
Were you?
Yeah. My first job.
You gotta tell me how that was in a second. But you know, it was pretty cool. Like, unfortunately, a lot of the teams were doing things at the same time, so you kind of had to pick, you know, what you wanted to cover. So, you know, I'm like, Caitlin is the biggest draw here. Don Staley is the biggest. So I missed everything that South Carolina and North Carolina had. So I was able to do Iowa, and I was able to do UConn or what have you. So you know, she just happened to be right there, you know, where I was standing at doing her exercises and talking Hannah and stuff like that. You know, they were goofing off. She just happened to be right there. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. So I kind of focused a lot of my coverage on her. You know, the South Carolina, Dawn Staley and stuff like that. The one thing I regret that I didn't do was that I didn't go on the floor while they were celebrating. I ended up going to the media room to get interviews, you know, and it was Caitlin Clark's last interview as, you know, Iowa Hawkeye. I do feel that her and Angel and some of the other girls probably should have took that last year that they had for the COVID year that they were given. But, you know, I guess they like, I'm done with this college thing and I'm out. So,
yeah. I don't know. And I talked about this last week. Gab Cruz, who's the Guardians in-game host, I had her on last week and we talked a lot about that tournament. But I was just like, if you think about women's basketball with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, now a member of the Chicago Sky after she got drafted by Chicago Sky, Dawn Staley. And Dawn Staley's been, you know, she was a phenomenal player, turned out to be a great coach. I've gone on and on about her, just what a great person she seems to be to cover and to play for. And there were just so many great stories that really elevated women's basketball to Rachel levels we haven't seen in our life before. And it's really just a combination of really cool things coming together to get to appreciate this. And I'm not going to keep going over it because Gab and I talked about last week, but there were so many great players before these girls that may have not gotten the love that they are, but it's good that they're able to kind of pioneer, these girls are kind of pioneer a new era. To me, it seems great. But I thought it was so cool that that your coverage of that was just amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, how you were just like right there, because I mean, look, we've had front row seats in our coverage to, you know, LeBron James, Donovan Mitchell, and we go with the flow because that's our job, right? So I'm so used to going with the flow when I see people like that, but I was just like, wow, Rachel's given us the inside story right here of the Iowa Hawkeyes women's practice, and then of course UConn as well. So it was something else, and that's something that you've been doing for a while. Is kind of, I mean, whenever I go anywhere covering something like the Cavs, I'll be like in the background. I'm like, there's Rachel right there. She's right up in the action.
I'll admit I'm bad about getting in those scrums. I'm usually in the back, so I'm like, I got to do better about getting in the front in those scrums. So that's one thing I need to work on.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all could have things to work on. You know, a lot of people probably don't know this or care, but I'm not a great question guy. I like to let other people ask the questions.
Mhm.
And it's not that I have a fear. It's just like, I just don't really have anything to ask that,
Thank you, Sam.
right. It's
Thank
like,
you.
I feel like sometimes, Rachel, let's be honest, when you work in the media, sometimes, that, like the coach, what you're going to ask, the coach knows what you're going to ask, and the reader, listener, viewer knows what they're going to say and what you're going to say. I mean, so a lot of times I try to build off my own thoughts as I know you do on your radio show, and then other times, you try to, I guess the best way to say it would be, you try to inject what they're talking about with your own thoughts. So you don't really need to ask a lot of questions. Sometimes I feel like the questions, and we've been doing this long enough, are trying to steer your source or their source toward a certain answer.
Mhm.
Whereas, I don't know. Rachel, as I often do on this show, I'm rambling on with no point. So I'm just
I
glad that
understand
you
your
stuck
point
with me.
completely. I'm with
Okay,
you.
good.
I'm right here, buddy.
Okay. I didn't know if maybe I put you to sleep. And if so, I'll just shake you. I'll wake you back up. But
Laughing at your jokes again.
yes. Well, I can't help but tell them because I know you're going to laugh.